loving you.
Che dite? Posso partire? Mi sembra di capire che non c'è altro, because you're given a job. And who are these people? Where are we? First things first, where are we? Here in Milano, it will take us roughly an hour. Arianna, quanto ci vuole arrivare? Un'oretta? Well, that depends on traffic jam, of course, because now everything has become bonkers. But as of here, Franciacorta is considered by the Milanese their a little reminder for everyone, 1 hectare is 2.3 acres, just to give you a ballpark. 2.43, yes. So 3,000 hectares, how many hectares do you have, for instance, in that other region across the Alps where they speak that funny language? The Hashed to a wine region, and you just get there in the car, you just be placed in a beautiful winery, and there you go, the wines, and your life is in the glass. People seldom just go about and see what the heck is out there. And whatever is out there is more of a mirror of what's going to be in the glass than what we think. At least I think we should be able, if you do not see that landscape document stating that Franciacorta was making wines already, white, red, and sparkling wine in the 13th century. Am I trying to say that Italy has made traditional method sparkling wine before Champagne? No. But, okay, so the lake is paramount. Okay, lake is paramount for changing the entire mesoclimatic condition, the conditions of a given valley. What happens? First of all, we have the Val Camonica. Val Camonica is the beautiful mountain, is a World UNESCO Heritage Site, not given yesterday like a lot of areas are right now. UNESCO seems to be pretty generous nowadays. But this was granted a UNESCO site in 1977. Why? Because of biodiversity, mainly. If you go in Val Camonica, you are going to go towards the Alps. So you go all the way to Passo del Tonale, 3,000 meters above the sea level, cold spell coming in all the way down to the Lake Iseo, making the beautiful torbiere. These are like a lake forest that is very unique. In the middle of the lake, you have a mountain, Monte Isola, the tallest and largest lake island of Europe. Expectations in the glass. with a landscape like this, which is basically an alpine kind of luxury, to Rome. Anyone in the church industry had to be appointed by the Pope, so you had to travel, and they needed a safe passage to go down. So a lot of trade was flourishing and cities were becoming more important. And that's why these convents were given this free taxation. 7th century, Monastero di Santa Giulia. 7th century Monastero di Santa Giulia is important because you start seeing in documents when the guys were passing the property of this monastery to somebody else, there are documents stating about the presence of viticulture in the area. Not have any documents that can allow me to say that in Monastero di Santa Giulia maybe there was Pinot Noir. I cannot say that, but the fact that Carlo Magno was actually giving these monaci benedettini this task, it'd be quite interesting if we found any document about it. Why am I so focused on the Pinot Noir? I should be focusing also on the Chardonnay. 81% of the appellation is cultivated with Chardonnay grapes, and then you have 15% of Pinot Noir, then you have a little bit of Pinot Blanc, and then you have 1%, I think 3% of Pinot Blanc, and 1% of Herba Mate, which is a relatively old and indigenous variety that is used nowadays, very resistant to hot and heat, but it cannot be used too much in the blend, only 1% of the blend. What else can I say before we're going to move on into the tasting? While in the meanwhile, I miei sommelier, ragazzi, cominciamo. One thing that I didn't say, what about Berlucchi? I talked about Franciacorta. Berlucchi, what does it have to do with the history of Franciacorta? Because I promised that today we were going to taste a little bit of history. As a matter of fact, we don't know much about his new job that he was just given, that he goes back and he says, Mr. Berlucchi, how about we also try and make a wine alla maniera francese, the French way. What did he mean? He wanted to make a re-fermentation in the bottle, a champagne style. 1955, what happens? 1961, 60 years later, we have the first ever. Ask anyone to get in an old Cinquecento and go anywhere farther than the supermarket, no one would go there. But these two guys were hopping in a Cinquecento every other week to Champagne. One day they were coming back with a pump. Another time they were coming with a plant of 1962 was the year where the Ferrari 250 GTO was put together, the Alfa Giulia and the Lotus Elan, the Alpine Renault, like a phenomenal year for cars. But I have my wines here. Let's start because I know that time is running. Now, the Berlucchis now own 80 hectares or in like property, but they actually run an extra 420 hectares of vine. Vino numero uno, as you can see, has got some beautiful bubbles. We were given a glass to allow more oxygen and more aromas into our nose. 61 Brut. This is the wine of the family, like shall I say the flagship wine in a way. And 24 months minimum in contact with, okay, so the grams per liter in this wine are 7 grams of sugar per liter. A little reminder for everyone. I want to enjoy before I dive in, if it wasn't just because I'm thirsty, but I could spend a lot of time here because I find the nose very seductive. I'm just going to do quickly. The second wine has got a lot more of a flintiness. And as we move on, the wine seem to be going towards a more mineral, gunflint, pencil shaving character. all the way up to the end were also a beautiful croissant. These are like a toasted, like a toast, butter and apricot jam right now. But let's do one at a time. Qualcuno mi è venuta fame? Però la parte briochata è molto forte in tutti questi vini, no? It's very beautiful to see the counterbalance. Very creamy, voluminous wine. The sugar residual is there, making the wine really, really easy to drink. But there is also the acidity. So together with that beautiful, luscious sweetness, boom, all of a sudden you have this lemon and grapefruit freshness in the wine that makes the wine, you see what happens? Right now, after 30-40 seconds, our palate is clean and ready to go for another drink. And that's because of pH and acidity. This is what you want in fine wines, by the way. You want to have suppleness, seductiveness, but at the same time, acidity that cuts through in order to allow yourself to be satisfied. You have to be satisfied. Like, we drink wine also because we're thirsty, not just to just play the game, right? So the acidity is very important. 24 months on the lees, 61 Brut, Chardonnay, 10% Pinot Noir. Moving on, you will see immediately by the color, this is the rosé that I was talking about, the first rosé ever created in Franciacorta. 1961, everything begins. 1967 is when the DOC came into place. 1995 is when the Franciacorta can now use the label without adding anything else but Franciacorta as a name. So no traditional method or nothing else at all. Andiamo ad assaggiare questo vino, ragazzi. In questo caso, reading some notes about the 70% Chardonnay, so still receiving what? Something else that we didn't have in vino numero uno, and that is a little bit of astringency, a little bit of phenolic tension. These are the tannins of the Pinot Nero. Okay? It has got the tannins, and that's what we all need to get when we go on a rosé Pinot Noir. 7:15. Andiamo avanti because I also want to leave some Q&A and listen what you guys have to say, your considerations, your favorite wines, and your experience with Franciacorta. Vino numero 3. A questo punto, Arianna, ho ragione a dire che è un 70% di Chardonnay, 70% Chardonnay and 30% Pinot Noir. It's a 2014 vintage, so this time we're moving from a non-vintage Franciacorta into a vintage Franciacorta. Now, when we do that, the minimum requirement by law for a Franciacorta to be millesimato, you have to keep it in contact with the lees for at least 30 months. Not 24, but 30. But as a result, we know that in this case, the wine has gone for more than 30 months. It's going to be more around the 40 months. Look at the beautiful label. I know one thing for a fact about this wine. I had the 2011 and 2012 bottles that I cracked open for Christmas while I was cooking. You know, I love Christmas Eve because I take it off. Maybe all the presents are done, and I prepare my bottles, of course, so a lot of stuff had to go away. The result is this very creamy, this wine, as we move on, they become more, it's like a caress before you go to bed. But at the same time, there is this smokiness in the wine that gets you in a totally different mode, right? Like, it's like, you know what? It's like when I go to a beautiful city like Chicago and I'm about to go to the Green Mill, a great place where I listen to the most amazing jazz. And you feel element is always there. There's jasmine and tobacco at once. You have a part that is saying to you, can you say that we are in Paris for a moment? It's early morning. We are in Paris, and you have this beautiful smell of croissant, which is nothing else but butter disguised in a croissant cloth, right? Because that's what it is, a croissant in Paris. And you get exactly that. I'm loving it for that reason, but then all of a sudden, it's not that flabby anymore. You just come with the smokiness and the gunflint. In this case, these extra layers of vanilla, and And I think a little bit of some small parcel of this wine has gone through barrel aging. Lolo Vineyard, which is a little hectare or so, okay, very cold. Very cold. If it's summertime and you go to Palazzolana, you go there, the soil, the morenic soil, the clay is super cold, and as a result, the one si chiama 15 PO. I've done vertical tasting of this wine all the way back to the all the vintages, and the wine keeps alive. More on the balsamic edge. This is not about the lemon, but it's about the lemon peel. It's not about the cedar, but it's more about the balsamic, almost like a pine sap, tea tree oil. There is almost even like a after eight, you know, like the minty chocolate together. The palate is more serious than the other wines. There is more tannin. Anyone in Milano or Chicago? Wine, ci sono delle considerazioni che volete fare anche in italiano? 4. Quante sono a Milano? 2, 3 here for numero 1. Numero 2, hands up for numero 2. Io intanto conto, numero 1, abbiamo 3 mani più 2, 5. Quanti? 3 there. How many here guys for number 2? Nessuno per il rosé, una mano per il rosé, e quindi siamo a 4. Who's going for the nature? Hands up. Allora, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, non riesco, 6, 7, 8, Chicago? 8, Chicago. The Brut Nature is the winner, because I would like to see the hands though for 2009.